if I told you the wristwatch wasn't invented because people wanted to be stylish, but because they needed to survive time itself? And here's the wild part. For a long time, wearing a watch on your wrist was seen as strange, even feminine, and many men refused to wear one. So if you think a wristwatch is just a watch, stay with me, because the real story is way bigger. Drop a like and subscribe right now, because by the end of this video, you'll understand who really made the wristwatch mainstream, why it replaced the pocket watch, and how wars, marketing, and technology turned it into something almost everyone depends on. The strangest fact: wristwatches weren't always normal. The first thing you need to understand is simple. For centuries, the serious watch wasn't on your wrist, it was in your pocket. A pocket watch was status, it was tradition, it was masculinity, class, and craftsmanship, carried like a symbol. So when wristwatches started appearing, people didn't see them as better, they saw them as unusual. And that's what makes this story so interesting. The wristwatch didn't win because it was cooler. It won because life demanded something faster. Before wristwatches, time was slower. Come back with me to a world without constant time checking. No buzzing phone, no digital clocks everywhere, no quick glance at your wrist. Time mattered, but it was experienced differently. In towns, bells marked hours. In cities, public clocks ruled the rhythm. In daily life, many people didn't measure minutes, they measured tasks, sunlight, meals, seasons. But as the modern world grew, something changed. Time stopped being background and became a weapon. The pocket watch era, precision as status. Pocket watches didn't just tell time, they represented engineering, wealth, and control. You didn't wear them like clothing, you carried them like a statement. And checking the time was a small ritual. Hand in pocket, chain, open the case, read the dial, close it again. Elegant, but not fast. And the moment society began to demand speed, that ritual became a weakness. The first wristwatches, not for men. Early wristwatches were often associated with women's fashion. They were smaller. They looked like jewelry. They were worn as decorative accessories. So imagine the stereotype. A wristwatch wasn't seen as rugged or serious. But then reality hit. Because the wristwatch wasn't actually competing in fashion first, it was quietly competing in function. The shift, when fast time became necessary. Now we reach the turning point. As industry expands, trains run on schedules, factories run on shifts, cities run on precision, and the military especially runs on timing. A pocket watch requires 2 hands and a moment of stillness. A wristwatch requires 1 glance. That difference sounds small until you imagine needing time when your hands are busy or your life depends on seconds. War changes everything. Time on the wrist. This is where the wristwatch stops being a fashion choice and becomes survival equipment. In war, timing is everything. Coordinating attacks, synchronizing units, measuring artillery intervals, navigating under pressure. A quick glance at the wrist beats digging through pockets. So, soldiers start adapting. They strap watches to their wrists. They protect dials. They demand visibility at night. They need durability. And suddenly, the wristwatch becomes something a man wears proudly, not because it's pretty, but because it works. The trench watch, the watch that made it normal. A crucial evolution happens here, the trench watch. It's basically the bridge between pocket watches and modern wristwatches. Stronger cases, protected crowns, luminous markings, straps designed for combat. These watches weren't made to impress anyone, they were made to be read instantly. And after war, something happens. Men come home with wristwatches, and what was once odd becomes familiar, then respectable, then desirable. From soldier to citizen, marketing takes over. Once the wristwatch becomes accepted, companies do what they always do. They turn necessity into identity. The wristwatch becomes punctuality, professionalism, success, reliability, adulthood. Ads stop selling a device, they sell a person. A man who wears a wristwatch is modern. A worker who wears one is disciplined. A businessman who wears one is in control. The wristwatch becomes culture. Tech evolution: accuracy, automatic, quartz. Now technology accelerates the story. Mechanical improvements make watches more accurate and reliable. Then automatic movements reduce the need to wind. Then waterproofing and shock resistance change durability. And later, quartz transformed the industry with higher accuracy and lower cost. At that point, the wristwatch isn't a luxury for the few. It becomes a basic object for the many. And that's when it truly becomes mandatory in daily life. Why it still matters in the phone era. You might think phones killed the wristwatch, but the wristwatch survived because it's not just about time. It's about instant access, habit, identity, style, and now technology, smartwatches. The wristwatch evolved from jewelry to tool to symbol to wearable tech. And once again, it's on the wrist because the wrist is the fastest place to check. When you put it all together, one thing becomes clear. The wristwatch didn't replace the pocket watch because it looked better. It replaced it because modern life demanded speed. Industry demanded schedules. War demanded seconds. Marketing demanded identity. Technology demanded adoption. And that's how a fashion accessory became an everyday necessity. Now, I want to ask you something. If you lived in the pocket watch era, would you have trusted a wristwatch at first? Or would you have thought it was just fashion? Drop a comment with one word, pocket or wrist. And if you made it to the end, you're the real one. So subscribe right now, because the next reconstruction is even crazier. Next episode, we can reconstruct another invisible invention you use every day: the zipper, the QYERT keyboard, the first safe elevator, or the first home refrigerator. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because once you see how everyday objects were really born, you'll never look at them the same way again.